Hey Pisces, it's Empress Rose here. Welcome to your reading. These are general readings, so take what works, leave what doesn't. If I don't catch your storyline on this one, check your other major placements. There will be an extended over on Vimeo this week, so the link should be directly underneath me in the description box. And so we're going to do a traditional tarot spread here, more traditional. And then we're going to, over on Vimeo, we'll do another layer on that spread. So overall for the reading from the bottom of the deck, 5 of Pentacles, talking about resources, resource distribution, but also being left out in the cold, feeling poor, feeling impoverished, feeling vulnerable, maybe financially vulnerable or even socially vulnerable. Like everybody got something but you. So that sense, this can be poverty mentality, but also it can be real. Like it's not just the mentality sometimes, it's actually, yeah, there can be a lack of resources sometimes. Financial, emotional, yeah. So yeah, this could be just a way that you're looking at a situation and seeing everything you don't have, but this can also be a way of looking at a situation. This is really interesting. There's like an anarchist symbol in this. Huh. We'll try to integrate that into my thinking of this. Past, present, inner landscape, what's at issue, environment, to-do list, possible outcome. Maybe this is a power imbalance, or this is a lack of resources created by some sort of power imbalance. There's a lot of owls here. There's a lot of owls, predators, but also wisdom. In your recent past, we have 8 of Wands, Pisces, lots of communication, lots of movement, things going fast, very exciting energy here, messages coming in. There might have even been like something coming in nice and fast, like a goal-oriented, maybe some goal-oriented communication, maybe, you know, eye on the prize for sure. There's like a vision here. And going after this vision. Yeah, there's a vision here, and we're going after the vision with lots of communication, lots of movement. We're headed towards where we want to be with this. In the recent past, we've been headed towards where we want to be with a lot of communication and a lot of movement. A vision of what we want, a vision of where we want to go, a vision of what we want in our lives, and maybe even a vision of how we nurture ourselves, a vision of how we grow, how we want to grow here. A lot of, you know, ganas here, the desired movement towards the, as I understand that word, but there's movement here towards winning something and accomplishing something and getting yours. Current situation though, whoa, what happened here? We've got the moon now. This is all about the parts of ourselves that can be tamed, the parts of ourselves that cannot be tamed. In some ways I see like this wild part of ourselves, this our subconscious, our intuition, having to move and survive in a man-made environment, in this grid that we all live in this man-made environment, and our intuition's out here just kind of scavenging, like, you know, we don't have a lot of freedom in this situation, in this current reality. There's not a lot of freedom to move. You know, we have to show up at work at certain times. We have to do this, or that's our understanding of it. We have to, you know, follow these rules and do these things. And there's such a grid here, both in the cityscape itself is a grid. So there are channels. You have to go, if you want to go here, you have to go down this road and over there. Out in the wilderness, if you want to go here, you find whichever way makes sense, right? And you move around obstacles and whatever. There's not like a grid of you have to do this, your mind has to do this, your body has to do this. There's a sense of, I want to go here and I'll get there anyway I need to. But this has a sense of of having to make the most out of your intuition in a more grid-like situation, or in a situation. So that's not organic. That's not natural. That's man-made. I mean, of course, humans are part of nature, but a man-made grid-like existence here. So, but we've got stuff from our subconscious popping out. Our subconscious is still alive and thriving. Our intuition's here, alive and thriving in a way, inhospitable environment, and it's leading us towards things, towards treasures. And maybe that's treasures of epiphany, treasures of realization, and maybe, since we are talking about this Five of Pentacles here, maybe it is financial treasure. So again, we have this like in it to win it kind of communication, and now we have this like exploration, and we are getting what we need here, but it's very unconventional, and it's very much not, there's an untamed element in with all this tamedness, and it's the untamed element that's really got the goods here. It's got the goodies here. The subconscious has some really cool stuff here. So the communication from the past, maybe that was like more expressive, more explicit, and now for some reason this has put us into our subconscious. The grid is inhospitable, or is forcing us, something external is like forcing us into an internal survival mechanism, which is actually, we are able to thrive. Like the coyotes here in my city that I live in, they're fat and chunky little guys because they've got access to house cats, backyard chickens. They've got a lot of, just like everybody else, they've got a lot of like easily available food here in the cityscape. So they tend to thrive here. So there's something here that's driven you within, and you're finding all sorts of goodies in there. And I'm not even sure, like, we're dealing with like shadow self issues and shame issues possible. I mean, the moon often brings up those shame issues, of where things that we hide from ourselves, things that we don't want to look at. But this is like a full-on exploration of the wilder corners of what can be tamed and what can't be tamed. And we found some wild corners, some untamed parts of ourselves that actually have maybe more of what you want. Like this external communication, we were headed directly, precisely to where we wanted to go. We were communicating very clearly, and we had a vision. And now there's some sort of disruption here of like, well, actually, what is around that corner? Well, maybe let's do some more exploration and less directed movement. Like this Eight of Wands was sort of like moving in the flow of traffic, and now we're like, there might be something a little wild to explore here, and it's worth it. It's worth it to explore those subconscious issues, or whatever is a little bit more wild than. And there's a sense of silence too. There's a quietness here, out of view. There's a sense of privacy too. If someone were awake, they could see. But I don't see anyone watching. See that it's very private, what you're thinking about. And there's a sense of scavenging, like the resources are no longer external, so we're going internal. And I also find it interesting, we've got this owl going for something green here, and here's a little baby grub, but this is a big snake. And we've got an owl with a very focused, right, their vision is intense. They can see very well, very far. And so this might have been some sort of vision, some sort of, right, idea communicating directly about that. And here we have sort of this inhospitable environment where something's been left out. And now we're scavenging maybe for that thing. Or that being left out, right? The city planners don't ever think about the coyotes and what they're going to do and how they're going to live, and the deer and all sorts of other animals that end up in the city. They're always left out of the city planning. So there's something that's been left out here, but it's actually a real treasure to be left out, is what I'm feeling. In your hopes, your fears, your inner landscape, we have this Knight of Wands. This is a person. This could be a very like impulsive person that you're thinking about. The Knight of Wands is just like, wow. This Knight of Wands is kind of scary. But this person very much knows themselves. They could be very creative. They could be very impulsive. This person has a little bit of a magic element to them. They might be very private. You might be a little bit afraid of this person. And possibly a little bit like excited about, I mean, it's hopes, fears. It's something that's on your mind and in your heart, is a person who can be a little impulsive. But this one's very private with them. I mean, they can be impulsive, but that's just like the external here. They have a lot of power. And the reason they can be impulsive is they can handle like blowback and uncertain circumstances. They're not worried at all about their ability to handle anything. And that allows them to be impulsive. It's like this coyote is not worry, like the city planners never worry about the coyote, and you know what, the coyote's not really worried about himself either. He can handle things, he can handle this, and this is a similar energy of this this guy here can really handle anything, and so why not be impulsive? He can handle the blowback, he can walk through fire, not a big deal here. So, and the Knights are also communication. So you may be thinking about communicating something very impulsively. Like we had all this communication, put us in a very internal place where we're scavenging our subconscious and finding lots of interesting treasures to deal with, lots of stuff to work with, lots of meaty, nutritious stuff to work on here. And this Knight of Wands, we could be thinking about like, okay, you know what? I'm getting a little more resourceful. I could communicate a little better, a little more bravely and boldly. The Knight of Wands can be very rash and brash. And is it impulsive? Is it intuitive? We don't know. It's just right on the edge of all of that. And then what's at issue here is the Hierophant in reverse. Oh my goodness, the Aquarius just got the Hierophant. But this is very non-traditional energy. Very much outside the norm. I mean, we've already got this communication that's pushed us into some sort of place, and this is like acting outside the norm. This is non-traditional. Nothing's going, there's no methodology here. There's no structure here. It's kind of this like free-for-all energy. Like we're outside the structure, which is what this coyote in the city is like. Here's this structure, and here's this thing that's acting completely outside the structure, the known, right? And then this is like almost like here's the known structure, and then here's this opportunity, and we're not looking at the structure for the opportunity. We're looking outside the structure for the opportunity. We're looking outside of the structure itself is impoverished. The structure itself doesn't have anything that we need in it. We can't function. There's a sense of not being able to function within that structure. So this is very much outside of structure, outside of tradition, outside of, there's no rule book. Something's way outside the rules, way outside the norm, way outside the grid. And there's not really a rule book for what the situation is right now. There's a sense of needing to scavenge and needing to make the best out of a situation and needing to find opportunities, but they're non-traditional. They're way outside some sort of norm. It's a very non-traditional situation. It's very much outside the norm. Rules do not apply here. Aquarius got a similar message, but very differently brought forward. The rules don't apply here. There's not, and so with this anarchist idea too, and this anarchy over here, there's a sense of outside of the structure, outside of authority structures, outside of all of that. It's just either structure is broken down, and there's a sense of needing to there's just a sense of outside the grid, outside the box thinking, outside the grid. like either this structure has fallen apart on something, or it just doesn't exist for you, and your opportunities lie outside of traditional structures. We have in your environment the Chariot. This could be the Chariot, obviously transportation, but again, there's this in it to win it idea. There's an opportunity, and you're gas stoked and ready to go. There's something in your, there might be an actual trip, actual transport, but this honey badger, is this a honey badger or is this a regular badger? I don't know. He's got his prize. Like here, I was talking about chickens and house cats. Here we've got a chicken here. We've got an opportunity here. We've got something coming together. Something coming together and creating an opportunity to really go somewhere and to really move. In your environment, there's a chariot. Your chariot seems to be awaiting you. Very non-traditional though. And it's not a chariot that goes on streets. It's some other chariot. But it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to be grasped. And this movement from this Eight of Wands, it goes from communication to actual transit, to like actual movement. In the past, you were just talking about something. It was talking, right? Here we have the vision. And now that vision appears and it's actually in your hands. Like what you wanted, it's coming. What you've been talking about, what you've been communicating about, what's forced you into some sort of subconscious work, what's outside the norm, what's outside the grid, it's coming. It's here. The opportunity is here in your hand. Like here, we're just dreaming about it in the past and talking about it. And then in your environment, it's here. The opportunity is here. It's in your hands. It's no longer a vision. It's no longer just an idea to be talked about. There's a concrete possibility here. Your to-do list, Queen of Swords. Be very clear on your thinking and your communication. Make a choice, make a clear choice. Make a deciding, knowing what you think about a situation. You being the Queen of Swords here, you being very clear in your communication, very clear on what you want. Again, we have this owl coming for an opportunity. There's just, you need to know what you want, and you need to know, and you need to communicate it. That's our Queen of Swords. Queen of Swords is not worried about other people's feelings, about namby-pambying about. It's not that the Queen of Swords should be mean about anything or anything like that. There's just a directness. And there's a know what you think, know what you want, make a choice, communicate it very clearly. Be very clear. There's no and maybe and which is, my bread and butter. Like, you watch my videos, I'm like, no, I'm not like that. But I'm we can be and unclear and but this Queen of Swords, be very clear on what you want, and be very clear in the communication of that. And then we have, in your possible outcome here, we have Temperance, an adjustment period, being in two worlds for a while. You're not going to be here or there. You're going to be halfway in between. There's an adjustment period. There's something's going to take the time it takes. You can be clear, you can communicate clearly, but that doesn't necessarily clear up the whole situation, or that doesn't necessarily like make something happen right now. There's a process. There's an opportunity here. It's in your hands. It's coming into your hands. You need to be clear. Say, I want this, or I don't want this, or this is what I think. This is not what I think. You need to be very clear about it. You need to bring that in a very focused way. But that doesn't mean that everything happens instantaneously. Something's got to take the time that it takes. So I like this Eight of Wands here with this Queen of Swords. There's been a lot of communication towards a goal. Now, the only goal here is for you to know what you think, know what you want, and be clear on that. That's all. That's your only job. Should be easy, but it's not, because we've got all these like other expectations and other things, and not wanting to hurt people's feelings, or not wanting to you know, create waves. But that's not really your job right now. Your job is just to know what you think and know what you feel. Your question should right now should always be, what do I think? What do I think? What do I think? It's not always like that. And that doesn't necessarily mean anything happens immediately, even though you've got it in your hands. You've got it right here. It doesn't mean there's an adjustment period, though. Almost a sense of being left out ends up being a blessing. Being left out of some sort of plan, being left out of some sort of situation. Some sort of grid or traditional situation. I think you're actually the owl in this one. And you're not looking at the grid. You're not looking at this, at all of this up here. You're moving outside of that, and you're looking at the opportunities that are outside of, since the forest has been cut down, since we're in this grid, you're not looking at the grid. You're not finding your opportunities in sort of the grid of civilization. You're finding it outside of the norm, outside of the traditional avenues. Right? And then you're grasping, you're understanding something. You're getting very clear on what you want. All right. Well, if you would like, Pisces, join me over on Vimeo. If not, I'll see you guys in a couple weeks.